for. These guys have, it's the biggest thing. It's the biggest. So when I ran in 2016, it was such a big thing, the border. That was peanuts compared to what we're talking about now. And I tell the story. I did such a good job on the border. Remember, they're coming in, they're racist, they're this, they're that. And they said rapists, too. I called them everything. It's peanuts compared to what this turned out to be. And that was less, those words were very inflammatory at the time. About 3 months later, they realized that the words were correct, except they weren't strong enough. It was actually the opposite. But we took this and we did a job with it. And then they wouldn't talk about it anymore. They didn't want to talk about it. But we're talking about it now because this makes what happened in 2016, it just pales by comparison. There's never been anything like this. This is an invasion of the United States of America. And they're taking your jobs, and they're taking Hispanic jobs, and they're taking union jobs. How about the unions? The unions, they work long and hard to get their wages up, and they have wages now, and people are going to be working for 15% and 20% of what people are getting now. And we don't want that. We don't want that. In some ways, it's good for an employer, but it's really bad for our people, and it's very unfair for our people. And we don't want that. We want people to come into our country, but we want them to come in legally through a process. And it is true. A lot of unions are looking and they're saying, what are we going to do? Because, you know, you're driving a truck and they do a great job, but you're driving a truck and somebody comes along and he's willing to do it for a tiny fraction of the cost. And those people are out of jobs. The unions are going to be in big trouble. And Biden's the one that's allowing them in. You know, he gave 2.5 million work permits this year to people that are illegal immigrants, 2.5 million work permits. And those are people. And the bigger problem is, and you know, at Georgia, in Georgia today, University of Georgia, they had a horrible killing. I said there's a new category of crime. It's called migrant crime. It's coming in at a level that nobody's ever seen before, and it's vicious. I call it Biden migrant crime, but it doesn't sound as good. No fairness. It does. It's too long. It's migrant crime. But just remember, he's the one that allowed this to happen by stupidity. Well, Biden wants to raise your taxes by $6 trillion. I will make the Trump tax cuts the largest tax cut in history. We'll make it permanent and give you the new economic boom. It's going to be an economic boom. When I was president, we slashed taxes for working families. We doubled the child tax credit, which frankly wasn't a Republican thing to do, but I said we have to do it. I do things that aren't necessarily Republican. You know, I do what's right, and I do things based on common sense. Somebody said, you're a conservative. I said, no, I'm really a person of great common sense. We need borders. We need a strong military. We need good education. We need low interest rates. We want to be able to buy a house. It's really based more on common sense, I think, than anything else. Who could allow what's happening? This is an invasion. Have you seen New York, where hundreds of thousands of people are living on streets, are taking parks that the kids can no longer play? They're going into schools and taking schools. They don't speak a word of English, and they're sitting down in classrooms. Nobody knows what to do. It's a disaster that's happening, and that's happening all over the country. As we supported moms and dads by dramatically expanding education savings accounts. I don't know if you've taken advantage of it, but it's a phenomenal thing. Under my leadership, the Republican Party will always support the creation of strong, thriving, healthy American families.